With the unrest on Wall Street and the uncertainty in Washington, Mayor Brandon Johnson is sounding the alarm about next year's city budget.
He wants early talks and open dialogue with other city leaders. As some in council say they have been sounding this alarm for months now. Political reporter Chris Ty live at City Hall with where things go from here. Chris?
Joe and Marie, some on city council say the city has been budgeting programs as though federal COVID dollars will be here forever. They won't. They're gone. And what's arrived, some say, is a mayor late to sounding the fiscal alarm. With a springtime optimism, Mayor Johnson touting fresh city projects.
We look forward to seeing more cranes in the sky and shovels in the ground across our great city.
But a fair amount of financial strife in the air, too. About the crippling economic news from Wall Street to the White House, he wrote to members of council Monday, this volatility, combined with the projected budget gap, makes it all the more important that we work together. I'm asking all of you to lean into this process with the urgency it requires. An urgency some in council say he's late to acknowledge.
We were talking about this last year.
Alderman Scott Waguespack says last fall, he and nearly 24 alders sounded the alarm, writing on December 5th, over 4 months ago, "We take you at your word and want to truly collaborate."
This motion passes.
Instead, Waguespack says Johnson was laser focused on passing his budget, even as warnings about the road ahead were right in front of him.
I think time is going to show which one of us is correct.
It was Alderman Lopez in December. In November,
we need to right-size the budget to pre-pandemic levels.
It was Alderman Tabares. The landmine-laden 2026 budget now taking center stage on the 5th floor of City Hall.
Conversation cannot start off with cuts. That's my orientation.
When you say I don't want to start with cuts, what would you like to? Where is the?
We have to
start
with revenue.
That's a failed fantasy. Yes. I think the first thing you have to do is look at the cuts that you need to make, the hard choices that taxpayers are going to have to be made at City Hall too.
Alderman Brandon Riley telling me today he thinks Mayor Johnson is a day late and $1 short on zeroing in on this fiscal cliff ahead of City Hall. Others on council telling me they think the budget deficit is actually going to be much larger than the mayor is forecasting. Mayor Johnson saying it's going to be about $1 billion. Others saying it's much more than that. Some estimating it could go as high as $3 billion. Live at City Hall, Chris Ty, CBS News, Chicago.
It's a big number. Okay, thank you, Chris.
So this is just a sample of lawmakers questioning some of the nation's largest city mayors, including Mayor Johnson, about their sanctuary city status. Paris Schutz is live in Washington, D.C. as well. He has been sitting in on this morning's testimony. They took a little break. They're back at it again. Paris, let's talk about what you've seen so far and how has Mayor Johnson done?
Yes, Sylvia, you just got a taste of what we've been listening to for the last 3 hours. It's expected to go on for another 3 hours. You have Mayor Johnson touting a drop in crime overall over the last 5 years. In fact, Mayors Wu of Boston, Adams of New York, and Johnson of Denver all saying the same thing, that crime has gone down in their cities, attempting to separate the issue of immigration from crime, citing studies that say actually undocumented immigrants commit a lower percentage of crime than naturalized citizens, and the more immigration in a city, the less crime. These are the studies they've cited. But Republicans, just as you would expect, just as you've seen on C-SPAN and the movies, using their time to ask very difficult questions, speechify, Republicans and Democrats alike. Republicans on this panel, like Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, say the sanctuary cities are actually harboring criminals, undocumented residents, and they are purposely not cooperating with federal ICE agents to try and take them off the streets. Take a look at a very tense exchange between Representative Perry and Mayor Johnson.
Reality is, Chicago police officers every single day bond people out at the desks of police stations. Those people could be turned over to ICE if they have a detainer issued, but we are not allowed to do that. It is that simple of a conversation we should be having of why we don't do that.
Okay, so that was actually John Catanzara, the president of the FOP, who is here, I don't think rooting on Mayor Johnson, but observing the proceedings here. So far, a predicted attack on Chicago has not really materialized. In one exchange, Illinois Representative Raja Krishnamurthy lobbed about the largest softballs that you could lob, saying, Condé Nast named Chicago the best city 8 years in a row. Correct, Mayor Johnson said in true Chicago boosterism fashion. Also a lot of attention focused on New York City Mayor Eric Adams, Democrats going after an apparent deal with border czar Tom Homan to cooperate more in exchange for the feds dropping several criminal investigations into him. Notable exchange, Adams saying there is no deal, no quid pro quo, I did nothing wrong. Now, Mayor Johnson, that aforementioned exchange with Republican Representative Scott Perry, let's take a look at some of that.
Do you take immigration information from criminals as they're arrested and processed? Do you take immigration information?
Our local law enforcement focuses on getting all violent individuals
do you
off the
determine
streets
whether
of
they're
Chicago.
here legally, what their immigration status is as a function of your justice system?
Gentleman, time's expired, but please feel free to answer the question, Mayor.
The Welcome in City ordinance ensures that our local residents communicate and trust local law enforcement to ensure that criminals and crime is being addressed, and that's why violent crime has gone down in the city of Chicago. Thank you very much,
Chair now recognized.
Okay, you know, a little bit of conflation here with Republicans. He's referring to 52,000. There's a difference here. Asylum seekers do have legal status, and those are asylum seekers he's referring to being bused to Chicago. That is different from undocumented immigrants that have crossed the border illegally, as some say. Also, you know, this issue of whether the police cooperate with feds, the mayors make the case they do if ICE has a criminal warrant. So it's not as if there's a brick wall in between the two. And right now I want to bring in Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, representing the northwest side of Chicago. Congresswoman Ramirez, how have the mayors, including Mayor Johnson, acquitted themselves so far?
You know, I think the mayor came here very clear to state the facts. He's defending a city that is a thriving city, as a matter of fact, the 5th largest GDP in the country. And these have been gotcha questions from my colleagues on the right. I mean, this is not a hearing. What you're seeing there is some kind of trial witch hunt against mayors of very successful cities. And I think he's setting the record straight. Chicago is a thriving city, and Chicago is made up of a diverse group of people. And that's actually what's made it such a great city.
What about the points that Republicans try to make? They're bringing up these cases across the country of some Americans that have died at the hands of undocumented criminals, and that sanctuary cities are harboring these folks and making their cities less safe.
Yeah, I would say that's absolutely yes. First of all, let me say to you, to the family of Laken Riley, and for those who have been victims of crime, I am so sorry, and that should never have happened, and we should do everything in our power to ensure that safety is obviously a priority for all of us. But they decided to take 1 or 2 instances and criminalize an entire group of people. These are women, these are children, these are people that have been contributing to places like Chicago for 20, 30, 35 years and have never committed a crime in this country.
What's at stake here? One of the Republican congressmen mentioned a bill floating around Congress that would defund cities like Chicago if they're spending money on undocumented residents. How much would that mean for Chicago?
I mean, Paris, let me first start by saying to you that over $100 billion, that's actually how much undocumented immigrants working in manufacturing, hospitality, pay to the federal government, into Social Security, and to Medicare every single year. These mass deportations that President Trump is talking about would actually impact revenue for the federal government. Number 2, let me also say to you that so much of the business fabric of cities like Chicago and New York, our communities, are dependent on immigrant contributions. And so it's going to devastate, because for every single dollar that Chicago sends to the federal government, that gets from the federal government, we send back $6. We actually send back more 6 times than what we get back. And I think that for the federal government, we should be asking ourselves, you're going after the cities that actually fund Social Security, Medicare, and so much of the federal government, when instead you should be supporting them.
Well, the residents of Chicago would say, you know what, you're the federal representative, get that money back for the city.
Paris, I'm going to fight like hell to get that money back. The idea that we voted on a budget resolution that would defund Medicaid when our hard-working Chicagoans are paying into it is disgusting. We, Congress, need to actually exercise our authority.
All right, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, a lot going on. Of course, you were up late with us watching the president's joint address last night, and now this marathon hearing. Thanks so much for joining us. So, Sylvia, so much going on. A lot of buzz in the nation's capital right now, again, because of the joint address last night where President Trump did talk about enforcement of immigration, how the border crossings have really plummeted under his watch. Some of the Republicans in here saying, you know, all we needed was a new president to enforce immigration law, ripping President Biden's stewardship of this issue. I think one of the most tense moments came from Louisiana Representative Clay Higgins, who suggested perhaps these mayors should go to jail. He's saying they are themselves violating federal law. He's saying federal law supersedes local law on this thing, and these cities have to follow immigration law. So a lot more to come, and we're going to bring it all to you all day, Sylvia.
Yeah, so more questioning taking place right now as we speak, as we look at some video here. But I wanted to ask you, overall, you have these mayors who are answering these questions, including Mayor Johnson. I understand a lot of work was done before Mayor Johnson took that seat. He was getting counseling and coaching from people who have been in this position before. Tell us, what do you know about what he did for preparation for today? Because it's a long day and he's still at it.
It's a long day, and I got to tell you, Sylvia, he hasn't had to talk too much because of the other three mayors here and the fact that these Congress members do use their 5 minutes to make speeches. Let's not forget, they're political and they want to get their pound of flesh, so to speak. They want to get their videos to go viral. And so, yes, the mayor's been here since Monday. He consulted with all kinds of people like former Mayor Emanuel, former Mayor Lightfoot. I'm told the kind of advice he got was, don't take the bait. Don't get into a tit for tat, because this is not a game that is designed for the mayors to win. This is designed for the representatives to get their time in the sun to make their case. And so if you stay calm, that is a win. And so far, these mayors have done exactly that. They have not taken the bait. It's contributed to a lack of so-called viral moments. I would say that moment from Representative Higgins, the Republican from Louisiana, was the strongest, most impassioned speech against sanctuary cities so far, and some of those exchanges. But again, they're not landing a whole lot of blows on Chicago, and I think Mayor Johnson is, protected by the fact that there are three other mayors up there who are receiving equally tough questioning from this panel. We'll see what comes of this, and I do think this is going to go into the evening.
I'm curious, when all is said and done, what do you think is going to come from this? What's going to be learned from this?
Well, I don't know if there's a consensus, because these things aren't designed to really come to consensus. It's part of a larger investigation that the Oversight Committee is conducting. I don't know if some Republicans might change their mind a little bit, saying maybe some sanctuary protections are necessary. Maybe some of these mayors say, okay, we could amend this. As Alderman Ray Lopez has suggested, if the police, as you heard Catanzara say, if they get someone charged with a crime and they know that person is undocumented, maybe they should cooperate with ICE agents and say, look, we got someone that's undocumented, come on in here. There's this whole issue of detainers. That means ICE might send a letter to Cook County Jail saying detain person X in jail because we think they're undocumented. Cook County says, well, we're not really going to do that because they've been free to go, and we're not going to cooperate with that. So there's common ground to be had here. There's no doubt about that. The issue is immigration's always been a political football. Do both sides want to find that common ground? Maybe at the end of the day, we'll see.
Okay, thanks for that, Paris. And Paris, of course, will be following any developments from the hearing this afternoon. He's going to be bringing us updates on our newscast first at 4 and at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to wave on to this important committee hearing today. I want to thank the witnesses. I represent a district right outside of Chicago, the excerpts of Chicago representing Rockford, Bloomington Normal, Peoria. And I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing. It's past time that individuals like the mayors we have before us come before us and explain to the American people why you continue to fail to enforce the laws of our country and allow illegal immigrants to flood into our communities. And it's clear to me that sanctuary city policies have significantly harmed our once great cities, which is very, very unfortunate. During my time as an elected official, I have strongly condemned the policy around sanctuary cities and the impact it's had on the state of Illinois. And I believe every sensible resident in Illinois knows these policies have further harmed the economy in Illinois, increased crime throughout our state, and endangered hardworking, law-abiding Illinois citizens. I want to turn my attention to you, Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago. As I've watched you over the last 2 years that you've been mayor, I've been amazed at how tone deaf you have been and how oblivious you've been to the decline of Chicago. And I say that looking objectively at a number of things. Out of control crime in Chicago, people scared throughout neighborhoods on the west side, south side, north side. Morale has never been lower with law enforcement and CPD. Record number of police officers leaving the force. We have been hemorrhaging people out of the city of Chicago to the suburbs and elsewhere where they feel safe. Record number of businesses fleeing the city of Chicago. You couple that with record deficits. $2 billion deficit, the $2 billion deficit line of credit that you just had to take out this week. But you've spent $300 million of taxpayer money on illegal immigrants. And when I think about all of those things and I look at the strategy you continue to take, I mean, you're putting the interest of illegal immigrants above the interest of taxpayers in Chicago. But you continue to go down this path, and for the life of me, I can't understand it. So, Mayor, tell me why you continue to put the interest of illegal immigrants above taxpayers in Chicago.
Thank you for your representation. Violent crime is down in Chicago.
Well, let me reclaim my time. So I have a statistic here. Last year, Chicago had 573 murders.
Down.
Okay, but I want to compare that to the city of New York that is almost two-thirds the size of Chicago, 337 murders. So you had 573 murders in the city of Chicago, and you're one-third the size.
That's the lowest amount in 5 years under my leadership.
Okay, and you look at the level of violent criminals, sexual offenses, and drug dealers.
All violent crime is down in Chicago. In fact, just this year alone, Congressman, respectfully, there's a 20% decrease in violent crime in the city of Chicago.
I don't agree with your statistics.
Well, it's not a matter of whether or not you agree with it. It's a matter of whether it's a fact.
Let me reclaim my time, because I thought you might do this. And when I hear your answer, no one in this room should be surprised that your approval rating is 6.6%. Now, that's not just me saying this. Newsweek article, the least popular politician in America is Brandon Johnson. So, recent poll, M3 Strategies conducted this February 20th to 21st, showed that Mayor Johnson has a 6.6% approval rating, the worst showing of any political figure in the country's history. So, I know you're talking about crime is down and things are great and, you know, the city's flush with money. None of that is backed up by the people in the city of Chicago. And so I'm wondering why you continue to go down this path of failed policies, destruction to the city of Chicago, people fleeing, law enforcement at an all-time low. And I'm wondering if you have any remorse for that here today and can tell us why you continue to double down on these failed policies.
We've invested $1.25 billion for housing and economic development, particularly for Black Chicago. It's the largest investment in the history of Chicago. 45% increase in youth employment, particularly for Black and brown children. I will not apologize for my investments in the people of Chicago. We have one of the most diverse economies, the top universities. As violence continues to go down and investments continue to go up, that is what's most important. We've opened up 3 mental health clinics, the first mayor since the first Black mayor in the history of Chicago.
I'm going to reclaim my
invest in
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to reclaim my time.
In public health, and I will continue to make those investments.
Your approval rating speaks volumes.
Well, the people approve of my investments, and I will continue to make those investments.
You're going the wrong direction. You need to reverse your policies on sanctuary cities. That's what the election results were last year. Crime and immigration were the #1 issue in the election from Republicans, Democrats,
Chairman, the gentleman's time.
We could use your help to actually help us continue to invest in these programs that continue to drive violence down in the city of Chicago, and I'm willing to work with you, and I'm glad I had a chance to finally meet you for the first time.
Gentlemen.
As the city of Chicago grapples with a massive budget shortfall, NBC5 Investigates has uncovered records showing that the city spent $80,000 renovating a single office to be used by Mayor Johnson's wife, the First Lady of Chicago.
The receipts show that city workers did much of the labor and billed the city for that work. Here's NBC5 Investigates' Bennett Haberly with the story. Bennett.
Yeah, Alex and Allison, these renovation or redecorating costs, well, the mayor says won't bankrupt the city, come at a time when Chicago is facing a huge financial hole and weighing all options, including potential layoffs, to make up for this deficit. Chicago's financial challenges raise questions about why the city spent more than $80,000 renovating this office in the Cultural Center for First Lady Stacey Johnson. Invoices obtained by NBC5 Investigates show the work began in room 306 as early as February and continued through August, with city workers, including painters, carpenters, and electricians, clocking more than 350 hours of time, billing the city for more than $25,000 in labor costs. Invoices also show more than $11,000 went to a vendor to replace tile and carpeting. Another invoice shows more than $43,000 was spent on furniture alone. We uncovered these records through a series of public records requests that we filed weeks ago. We told the mayor's office we had questions about this on Tuesday, giving them more than 24 hours to prepare for these questions. I'm wondering if you could help define what is the role of the First Lady in your administration, and how do we justify spending upwards of $80,000 to redecorate an office for her and staff in our current financial situation?
So the Cultural Center has always been a location for dignitaries. Every First Lady has had office space, there. Renovations for my office or any other office is standard procedure.
Is there any concern about optics of spending $4,000 on a desk or $4,000 in club chairs at a time when the city is in this sort of budget hole?
Yeah, a desk is not going to, the purchase of a desk is not going to change the financial structural damage that has been in place for a very long time. So this is why we ask, and I mean this respectfully, we ask far more profound questions than that. We ask, how do we make sure that the structural damage that's been created over the course of decades, that we reroute the rivers, if you will, to make sure that it gets to the places where there's dry land. And that's what we're doing.
Johnson voiced displeasure with our questions, but they were born out of these receipts, which show an order for this executive chair costing more than $2,200, a desk labeled for the First Lady running more than $4,400, another staffer's desk $4,600, and 2 club chairs costing more than $8,000. The question wasn't necessarily about just the dollar amount, but about the optics of that. We just had a very contentious council meeting, so I'm just wondering if you're concerned about that optics.
So I've been mayor for 17 months, and you have a question about how I feel about optics? Just go back and review the tape. If I were to allow my leadership to be based on someone's opinion of me, it would be a derelict of duty. I never question my position to invest in people. I don't do this for optics. I do this to transform lives.
Mayor Johnson went on to mention he's focused on the optics of creating summer jobs for thousands of youths, for ensuring social workers and counselors are inside of schools, and investing in the west and south sides of Chicago, talking points he has raised before in addressing our questions. And while not uncommon for First Ladies to have a role or an office in the Cultural Center, a spokeswoman for the Larry Lightfoot's administration told me that they did not do any major renovations or redecorating to that room during her term. Allison?
Bennett, thank you.
Now, they certainly have, Rob and Cheryl. The mayor's comments yesterday prompting a barrage of social media posts calling for an investigation. And today, we heard from the Department of Justice.
The U.S. Department of Justice opening up a civil rights investigation into the city of Chicago. The DOJ specifically looking into the city's hiring practices. This comes after remarks Mayor Brandon Johnson made at the Apostolic Church of God in Woodlawn yesterday, where Mayor Johnson shared his vision for the rest of his term, emphasizing education, public safety, and equity. Johnson also saying his administration is one of the most diverse in the city's history.
There are some detractors that will push back on me and say, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet.
In a letter to the mayor's office, the DOJ says Johnson's comments highlighting the number of black officials in his administration prompted this investigation.
Business and Economic Neighborhood Development, the deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief Operations Officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man.
Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon stating in the letter in part, if these kinds of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions. Already reaction coming in from City Hall leaders.
Hearing what he said and seeing this investigation taking part, unfolding today, I think validates the concerns many people have throughout the city of Chicago that this isn't a mayor for everyone.
We just received a statement from the mayor's office in the past half hour saying in part, quote, Mayor Johnson is proud to have the most diverse administration in the history of our city. Our administration reflects the diversity and values of Chicago. Unfortunately, the current federal administration does not reflect either. Now, Rob and Cheryl, we will be following this story throughout the night, and we'll have more developments at 6.
Late today, the U.S. Justice Department launched an investigation into the city of Chicago and its hiring practices.
It centers on whether discrimination is at play inside City Hall, given the large number of, quote, black officials the DOJ says have been hired by the Johnson administration. CBS News Chicago political reporter Chris Tye joins us now to sort out what we know at this point.
Joe and Erica, in Department of Justice terms, this is lightning fast reaction to comments made yesterday by Mayor Johnson at a church in Woodlawn. He was talking about the number of black officials in his administration. Here was the comment that set this all in motion.
The deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief Operations Officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. And I'm laying that out because when you ask how do we ensure that our people get a chance to grow their business, having people in my administration that will look out for the interest of everyone, and everyone means you have to look out for the interests of black folks.
The Justice Department citing that exact moment in this letter to Mayor Johnson today, saying if these kind of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act prevents employment discrimination, but there are major exceptions, including hiring at places of worship and political appointments, like Johnson's senior staff that he listed Sunday.
They would not be considered employees under Title VII. So even if it were true that he was going out of his way to hire people of a particular race, that would not violate the law.
Carolyn Shapiro from the Chicago Kent College of Law says the DOJ assumption that since Johnson's senior staff is mostly black, that there's discrimination at play is a leap.
It's an enormous leap to say that because Brandon Johnson's top deputies and policymaking positions are African American, that the city is discriminating on the basis of race in its hiring of ordinary non-policymaking employees.
Our people hire our people.
Mayor Johnson, who's been called to Capitol Hill by conservative legislators angry over Chicago's sanctuary city status, has been a repeated target of the Trump White House. Johnson has himself compared Trump policies to terrorism. Late today, his team saying Mayor Johnson is proud to have the most diverse administration in the history of our city. Our administration reflects the diversity and values of Chicago. Unfortunately, the current federal administration does not reflect either. Late today, the mayor's team offered this racial makeup of his 105 employee staff. 34% are black, 30% white, 23% Hispanic, 7% Asian, 5% two or more ethnicities. The DOJ, by the way, is asking the mayor to reach out to continue the investigation and provide materials as they ask for it. And of course, we'll be following it every step of the way.
All right, Chris, thank you.
You bet.
Developing tonight, disagreement over how to honor a fallen Chicago police officer.
Enrique Martinez's funeral is Monday, and his loved ones are asking the mayor not to attend, but he says he's going anyway.
Our Jermont Terry shares the perspective from one of Martinez's family friends tonight. Jermont?
Joe and Erica, as the city prepares to honor Officer Martinez, who was killed while on duty, his family, through representatives, making it very clear that the man leading the city should not step foot into the services.
Standing outside the 8th Police District, members of the FOP and close friends of fallen CPD officer Enrique Martinez spoke out in solidarity.
Enrique Martinez's family called me up this evening and said they could not do this. They definitely do not want the mayor at any of the functions for Enrique. Plain and simple.
They are here relaying a message from the family directly to Mayor Brandon Johnson. Martinez's family says the mayor's policy for public safety placed Martinez and many Chicago officers in harm's way.
Change the policies that put them at risk.
The mayor honored the wishes of Officer Louise Weska's family earlier this year and did not attend the funeral services. Weska's mother here making sure Martinez's family doesn't endure the back and forth frustration she says she went through with the mayor's office during her grief.
If the mayor really wants to honor, in this case, Enrique Martinez's family, he must respect the Martinez family wishes.
Yet the mayor's office saying he will attend, and a statement saying in part, the mayor of Chicago will attend all honors funeral services for every police officer, firefighter, or EMT who loses their life in the line of duty. These official honor services are solemn moments to honor the sacrifice of our officers and first responders. It is the mayor's honor to support the officers of the entire Chicago Police Department, especially in moments of grief.
This mayor better not show up. That's so disrespectful.
Now, we should note that Mayor Johnson was at the hospital the night Officer Martinez was killed, and he did offer condolences to the family directly. As of this hour on this Friday night, the mayor says he plans to be there. Reporting live outside the 8th Police District, I'm Jermont Terry, CBS News, Chicago. Erica?
Thank you, Jermont.